this is the Community and Economic Development Committee. So if that's where you want to be, you are in the right spot. We're going to get started with roll first to make sure we have a quorum.
Carrasco, Perales, Mahan,
Here.
Esparza,
Here.
Foley,
Here.
and Perales.
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Before we begin, I just want to read the code of conduct that we have adopted and encourage you all to adhere to. I want to remind you that the committee and members of the public are fellow that there is a code of conduct at these meetings. This includes commenting on the specific agenda item only and addressing the full body. Public speakers will not engage in a conversation with the mayor, the council members, or staff. All members of the committee, staff, and the public are expected to refrain from abusive language. Repeated failure to comply with the code of conduct, which will disturb, disrupt, or impede the orderly conduct of this meeting, may result in removal of the meeting, from the meeting. With that, I will call this meeting to order, which I already did, and established a quorum before I read the code of conduct. So let's get started. The first item is the typical review of the work plan, which is the affordable housing siting policy. We're requesting that that item be deferred to November 28th, which is our next and last CED meeting of the month. We're not going to take public comment on this item at this time because we're not discussing it. We will be discussing this in the November meeting. We ask for the deferral because staff and others are not ready for that presentation right now. It's quite a complicated process. So with that, is one of the members of my committee ready to make the motion to accept the...
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Let's take the vote.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Perales,
Yes.
Mahan,
Aye.
Esparza,
Yes.
Foley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Moving on to, we don't have a consent item. The next item is the report from Team San Jose, the semi-annual activities and performance measures. And I know we have Carrie virtually, and we have the Team San Jose here in public. Welcome.
Great, thank you, Chair Foley. My name is Carrie Adams-Hapner. I'm the Assistant Director of the Office of Economic Development and Cultural Affairs. I manage the two contracts with Team San Jose on behalf of the City Manager's Office. And I'm here today with in-person members of the senior team at Team San Jose. That includes Ben Roschke, who's the Vice President of Research and Strategic Development, Matthew Martinucci, the Vice President of Sales and Destination Services, and Laura Shemaluski, who's the Vice President of Marketing and Communications. We're here today to give you an overview of the performance measures for last fiscal year, and then also to talk about the performance measures for this upcoming fiscal year, as well as the sales and marketing plan, and also to talk about industry trends. And just by way of background, Team San Jose is our longtime nonprofit partner that manages the convention center, 4 of our city-owned theaters, and also the Convention and Visitor Bureau. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Ben Roschke. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chairman Foley, council members. We'll start off with a review of our performance measures. These are measures per our city contract that we annually perform against to measure our success overall. And very pleased to say we were able to meet or exceed all performance measures this year. Just a couple notes. The estimated direct visitor spending exceeded that by 27%. A lot of that was due to a significant uptick coming out of COVID in the theater programming. We had a number of successful shows, a lot of people wanting to get back into the theaters and resume life. We also saw some social type convention events, for instance, Fanime, really outperform expectations, which led to those elevated levels of spending. With the gross operating revenues and our gross operating results, just to point out, because it looks a little funky, it's not actually a typo on that percentage. We were budgeted to break even more or less, and we're able to turn a bit of a positive result, come out ahead 2.3 million on the year, which just with the math makes it look a little funky, but overall, we performed pretty well. We had a number of cancellations specifically due to Omicron, and a number of our typical tech conferences canceled. We were able to make up for that. Matthew and his team did a very good job of reinforcing our contracts with cancellation clauses that we were able to collect on, so the financial damage wasn't as significant. This is one of our dashboards that we present. This is sort of an outlook looking forward at what we call citywides, which are our very large conventions coming in. We saw overall a slight decrease in the number that we booked over the year, but the rooms were almost flat to last year. Again, Omicron knocked out a number of rooms. I think in the first month of the year, we lost something in the order of 20,000 rooms that were booked for the next 12 months, just got wiped off the calendar in a matter of weeks. So looked like it was going to be a little stronger. We're continuing to rebound, and Matthew will sort of talk to the sales strategy as we move forward. This is our performance goals for the upcoming fiscal, and for comparison's sake, we have them compared to last fiscal year, and then we put in 18-19 just to give sort of a guide to what it was like pre-COVID in terms of what we could expect from performance. As you can see, we're looking for increased performance across most of the categories. Direct visitor spending, as we anticipate levels to continue to pick back up. The future hotel room nights, which are the rooms that are booked for this year and all years forward within the fiscal year. Theater occupancy, we are forecasting a slight decrease. We're looking at flat to increased levels in all three of the 4 theaters we manage, but with the Civic and the impending construction project of the park habitat right next to it, there's going to be some disruption that will potentially impact our ability to keep that building fully active to its full potential. And then for gross operating revenues, we'll see an increase. And again, with the results, it's going to be another close to break even year as things happen. We're hoping we're not going to be collecting quite as many of those cancellation fees this year, and actually having groups in-house. So it'll be more of an offset in terms of expenses to revenues. And then just wanted to touch real quickly from the research side on 3 of the main trends that we're kind of tracking and really are influencing our performance for the upcoming year. So our hotels are continuing to recover, but it's really uneven. So if you look at the segments that go into the hotels, you have your business travelers, what we call the group, which are the conventions and meetings, and then sort of transient leisure. And of those, nationwide of those 3 categories, transient leisure has come close to recovering, but business travel and group still remains quite behind previous levels. We've seen that play out here in San Jose as well, perhaps a little more exaggerated, even as we've had slower return to office rates in the rest of the nation. We still see high levels of uncertainty in the travel market. So for groups, especially our tech corporate groups, worries about the pandemic have been replaced with worries about recession. So we're seeing a lot of economic decisions being made around group meetings that are largely being driven with fears of a downturn, especially in Q1 and Q2 of next calendar year. And in general, San Jose and the Bay Area have been slower to recover than the rest of the nation. I mentioned the slower return to office rates. Also from an international perspective, where we're primarily reliant for our long haul overseas on Asia, that's been a lot slower to return to the travel market, and has really sort of slowed growth for the Bay Area in general. And we're definitely seeing that play out here. So I'll turn it over to Matthew for the sales strategy.
Good afternoon. It's good to be with you. Our sales team is extremely focused on the next 24 months. While we certainly are mindful of building our base in the future, we understand the urgency of sooner as far as all of the partners and all of the businesses that depend on the groups that we bring in. With that in mind, we're being extremely flexible with groups that are looking to meet in this window. Most of the very large events that we used to have pre-COVID, those have not gone to other destinations. Those meetings are just not taking place. So we have been working very hard to diversify our customer base, associations, state associations in particular, youth sports, religious and fraternal groups. And there are some national associations that we've had some success with. So we are very anxious for those large technology companies to start having their large events, but that does not look like it's going to be happening soon. We have been ramping up our sales managers on the team. So while we certainly cannot have the same size of staff that we had prior to the pandemic, people that carry a goal, revenue producing positions have all been brought back. And we're very confident that the plan we have in place is starting to show return. We've been working very well with our hotel partners. It's very critical now that the pandemic is fading, that we're getting back to operating regular business. And so we're staying very much in touch with them to make sure that our strategies align for large groups and that we're doing everything we possibly can to fill the city. And then our proactive sales approach, our travel and entertainment calendar. Finally, we've been waiting 2.5 years to be able to travel and to attend events and build relationships. And we have a very ambitious plan. Many of our people are traveling. We're taking hotel partners with us where possible. And the idea is to build and enhance relationships, generate leads, and then convert those leads to actual events. Thank you.
Thank you. Special thanks to council and city staff for your support of Team San Jose and our destination marketing efforts, and for recognizing the crucial economic development strategy that this is, especially at this time and for our city. As Ben said earlier, leisure travel is performing in San Jose. This can be attributed to trends, but it also in part can be attributed to our second year in a paid media recovery campaign. So with business, both group and transient lagging, we pivoted to a leisure campaign that's consumer branding. Our objective to drive immediate overnight stays through a digitally targeted strategy that positions San Jose as a leisure destination. This is all to drive people and revenue immediately into our hotels and into our businesses. So the tactic is, and right out of Silicon Valley, right? We're following you around on the internet. We're looking at you and seeing where you intend to travel. And if you intend to travel to the Bay Area, we're going to find you and present destination education through our local artists to help you decide to stay in San Jose whenever you're traveling to the Bay Area. Next slide, please. So during the time period we're reporting on, which is January through June, with $600,000 in market, we were able to return $15.6 million in total revenue. That's to our businesses from users from out of the area, nearly $4 million direct to hotels, and 21,500 San Jose hotel bookings with the length of stay that we know is 5.8 days for this period. That contributed 125,000 hotel rooms during this time. Next slide, please. We also committed about the same amount of money to a meeting campaign strategy. This is to help support our sales team's efforts and to raise the profile of San Jose through the 160 meeting planners that we know operate nationally. So great things here. I should mention that this just launched in April, but targeting things that Matthew has already identified, groups with a historical propensity to plan travel in California and prioritizing the state of California. Next slide, please. Okay, The great news here is the campaign, even since launching in April, has already generated 251 leads, and that's 32 direct RFPs to Matthew's sales staff. So we're very happy about that. The total impressions generated for this campaign, the meeting planner campaign alone, were over 8 million impressions. This is important, as I said before, because San Jose, as we all know, has not had money in destination marketing for a very long time. Our famous neighbor to the north, of course, has for 105 years, and we have for about 7. So anytime we can get those impression numbers, we're happy. Thank you again to council and to city staff for your support. Do you have any questions for us?
Thank you for the presentation. I'm excited to see these numbers. They're heading in the right direction, although we haven't recovered completely, as you've said. So I look forward to digging into that a little bit. But first, we're going to members of the public to comment on this item.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. I guess the first comment on the work plan item that was deferred today, it's my understanding based on Brown Act ideas that if the Affordable Housing Siting Policy Status Report has not yet been to a committee meeting and has not had a public meeting dialogue, you can't defer it without any sort of public comment if it's on an agenda. So I don't know if that's applicable here, but I thought I should make that clear that that's how I understand the Brown Act rules. We can talk about that another time. And to quickly offer, I'll try to keep this part under 30 seconds to offer public comment on the report here. I think, you know, as these reports have been going on for a number of years now, I've always tried to suggest the importance of what open public policies and accountability practices with tech, learning to apply those concepts in your planning for Team San Jose issues and how to bring people in during your current traveling time of getting people of local Bay Area communities to visit San Jose to talk about those good practices. If there's a way to do that, good luck, because I think it can help. And I think it's just nothing but good spirits and good positive energy that I think people would be interested to hear about. And that we are unique in San Jose. We're building something pretty good, hopefully, and with openness and accountability issues. Good luck how to want to invite people here to see those sort of things. Thank you.
Paul Soto. Paul Soto.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's on my end and there's something wrong with Zoom. I'm not able to participate in this meeting.
We hear you.
You hear me now? Okay, thank you. There's some just real funny going on there with respect to Zoom not allowing me to participate in these meetings, which means I can't participate in democracy. My name is Paul Soto and I'm from the Horseshoe. Blair is absolutely 100% correct. You cannot vote on an item without a public comment. It's against the rules. You have rules for conduct. Well, we have rules for you too to abide by. And what you did in terms of taking a vote without a public comment on that deferred item, that's against the law. That's what it is. It's against the law. You can accept it, you can reject it, that's fine. But it's not going to take away the fact that it's against the law. That's number one. Number two, with respect to this item, I think Team San Jose is doing an excellent job. What I saw was an acceleration of $10 million, which was 33% of that year's budget projected into the next year. And so that's pretty significant to increase by 33%. That means that whatever Team San Jose is doing, they're in comparison. Well, of course, you can't continue to.
Paul, you're breaking up. Your cell signal isn't very strong, and we keep losing about every other word.
Of that. Yeah, I know. That seems to be happening a lot lately when I log in, no matter where I log in from. I can log in from a phone, I can log in from a laptop, I can log in from a computer. It doesn't matter. It just seems to happen with me in these public comments.
Okay, thank you. I'll go back to the committee, but before I do want to address the deferral item. There is an opportunity under public comment at the end of the session under open forum if anyone would like to comment about the citing policy at that point or any item at that point. But since we're not voting on anything, we will have that open discussion in November. Do I have any committee members with their hands raised? Seeing none, then I will ask a couple questions and just make some comments. I think it's really great that the numbers are moving in the right direction, but can you, and I too am concerned about the recession and inflationary period, the cost of everything. Having Signia opened up again, do you see that as influencing attendance more positively in the downtown area? How do you figure, what do you see from that in the next half of the year going forward?
Good afternoon again. It's definitely positive for the city. Aside from, it's an iconic building. It will take a while for people to stop calling it the Fairmont, but it is 805 rooms, soon to be 805. They're moving towards as the renovations are complete.
Right.
Critically needed hotel rooms that are downtown within walking distance of the convention center. So it is positive in every possible way for us.
Okay, good. I look forward to see it be successful again and the jewel that is in that the downtown area. I know that business travel has had difficulty in recovering in San Jose, but you'd mentioned that it's improving in other parts of the country. So why do you think it's having trouble to reestablish itself here in San Jose? What's the number one factor? What's the number one factor, and what's the number one thing we can do something about?
So we're still, I mean, I think my personal opinion is that we're seeing sort of things settle into a new normal, that we're not going to necessarily return to strictly the way things were pre-COVID. And a big part of that is if you look at the return to office rates, there's a pretty direct correlation with that and business travel. And San Jose has some of the lowest in the nation. And if you look at the markets that are struggling with their business travel returning, San Francisco, Chicago, New York, nationally, the same cities are also on that list of slower return to office. We're also seeing, though, new opportunities sprout up. People still need to gather with their corporate headquarters, and I think we've nationally there's been an uptick in smaller meetings booking, and so that presents potentially an opportunity for us where, as Matthew alluded, the big tech conferences may not be booking, but there's lots of opportunities where they still have to do the team building within the destination. And that might be more of a program that wouldn't necessarily fit in the convention center, but could go directly into a Signia or other property in San Jose. And we've deployed a little bit against making sure we maximize those opportunities for direct into hotel bookings to help generate some more of that travel back.
Great, thank you. I know we are in a region that people aren't returning to the office, although I find being back in the office very invigorating, actually. Being around other people and not being in a Zoom meeting is actually, for me, more productive in some ways. You did talk about theater being back and successful. Is the attendance at our theaters, our live theaters, up or full, or what's the capacity? What's the attendance versus capacity?
We're not quite at the same capacity rates we were pre-pandemic. Obviously, we've seen more and more of an uptick. I think the sunsetting of the vaccination requirements for attendance has certainly helped. Earlier in last fiscal year, we also saw, I think people are just still psychologically recovering and getting more comfortable with being back out amongst people and amongst crowds. Last year, we saw a lot of no-shows, even purchased tickets. There was a sizable no-show group where people purchased tickets and then just for whatever reason did not choose to attend the night of. That's that's improving, and we're continuing to see good uptick in our theater.
Well, I wish you encouragement and good words and anything we can do to spread the word about getting out to our events and staying in our hotels. We're happy to do so. So if you have any media kits you want to send to us, please do, because the council offices love to distribute information and help people come in and spend money in the city of San Jose. It benefits all of us. With that, I see Carrie. Carrie, you have your hand raised, and then I'll look to my committee for a motion. to
Great,
accept the
thank
report.
you. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention the decline in theater attendance is a national trend. On average, nationally, there's about a decrease of 20% in audience relative to pre-pandemic numbers. So, great shows like Hamilton and Book of Mormon are
Yep.
definitely stimulating a lot of interest to return back to theaters in San Jose. And also I wanted to mention that next month, the city auditor will be presenting its annual report on Team San Jose. And then we'll be coming back to you in the spring for our semi-annual report.
Great, thank you. I have noticed that. I attend a lot of live theater, and I've noticed that attendance is really down. I was up in San Francisco actually Saturday, and it was the theater, the Golden Gate was probably maybe half full, maybe even just a third full, and I was kind of surprised. But that also could have been the show that just didn't draw audiences like Moulin Rouge drew audiences. What can I say? Okay. Does anyone care to make a motion?
I'll move
Move to
approval.
accept. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, then let's vote.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Perales,
Yes.
Mahan,
Aye.
Esparza,
Yes.
and Foley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Next item is the signature project requirement status report. I understand, Michael Brio, you're making that? Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Michael Brio, Deputy Director of Citywide Planning. And I'm here to talk to you, give you a status update on the signature project policy and the work that Council asked us to do and report back to you all today. So just kind of stepping back, because I know signature project probably doesn't come top of mind for most people unless you're a planning wonk like myself. But we have 46 urban village plans in the city that have unimproved plans. And the way the general plan generally works, or at least initially worked, is housing was not generally allowed unless there was a council approved urban village plans. And there are 3 exceptions to that rule. The first exception, which was something that was passed by the council after the first 4-year review, was that 100% affordable housing projects can move forward in unapproved urban village plans. Of course, if you have an existing parcel that has a residential land use designation, you can build a housing under that designation, regardless of whether there's a plan approved or not. And then the final one, which we're going to talk about today, is the signature project policy. So the signature project policy, the outcome or vision of that policy was that development that was really signature above and beyond, that provided more than its fair share of commercial. Actually, now it's been reduced to meets or exceeds its share of the commercial plan in the village. Meets or exceeds the housing densities planned or identified in the policy. And then there's also requirements for providing open space or park space. It doesn't have to be public. It could be privately owned but publicly accessible. And then a project needs to meet the city's design standards. So there are also there's criteria in terms of location and size of property. So it can't go on any property. It has to be more of a prominent location, which is how which was the wording in the general plan up until about a year ago. And so prominent, we define it as a site that is on a corner, or it's a site that's internal on the block, but it has 1.5 acres with a minimum 100 feet of frontage. So one of the things that has come up under all the state laws that have been passed in recent years, this has been particularly related to SB 330, is that if the city is going to enforce or really to deny a housing project, it can only do so if it's not meeting subjective criteria. And so the signature project policy currently, as written in 2011, is written in a much more objective criteria is what we have to do by state law. And it was written in a much more subjective nature. It was not quantifiable. It was, statements like should be on a prominent location, for example, and not defining what a prominent location was. So as part of the 4-year review of the general plan, the council gave us direction to make it more objective and provide more clarity to the community and developers, as well as even our planners within our office who are reviewing projects. So it's much more clear and transparent of what's expected of a project to meet the criteria of a signature project. So I kind of alluded to this, but one of the subjective words or criteria in the signature project policy was that a parcel had to be at a prominent location. Well, what does prominent to mean, right? Prominent can mean different things to different people. So as part of the 4-year review process, staff proposed that prominent be defined as a corner parcel or a parcel that is at least 3 acres or more with 150 square feet of frontage. The task force had a different perspective and ultimately recommended to council that prominent and interior parcels be defined as 1.5 acres or more with 100 feet of frontage. And that's what the council approved in December 7th of 2021. At the 4-year review hearing, council did direct us to come back to you, the CED committee, to explore how many additional parcels could be allowed how many more opportunities there would be for a signature project if the criteria was reduced to 1.25 acres, as well as 0.5 acres, and identify additional requirements that could allow projects to be reduced to 0.5 acres. So this is also part of our housing crisis work program, and this item will be cross-referenced to council after today. So we did do the analysis. I just want to note that the methodology and data that was done for the 4-year review has been lost, and the staff that worked on it no longer work with the city and were unavailable to assist us. So that being said, we had to recreate the methodology and recreate the data. So the data that we have here is slightly different than the data that was presented in the fall, and it's part of the 4-year review. But what we did find is if you reduce the size threshold for an interior parcel to 1.25 acres, just using the raw data, the raw opportunities of parcels that are 1.25 acres, they're designated commercial in unapproved village plans that have at least 100 foot of frontage, you would get 30 additional parcels that would be eligible, which is a 17% increase. Likewise, if you change the criteria or lower the criteria to 0.5 acres, just looking at the raw, the parcels that meet the basic parameters, you would add 218 parcels, which would become a 125% increase. And here's the data overall. So the data on the column on the left, column number 2, if you see, there's 175, 205, 246, 393. That's the number of opportunities, the increase in the number of opportunities based on just the basic parameters of if it's that size, 0.15 acres, for example, or 0.5 acres or 0.25 acres. That's just the parcels that meet that threshold and have at least 100 feet of linear frontage. Column 3 is where we used more subjective criteria. We actually looked at the properties and dug into them and whittled it down based on the factors of those properties. So for example, in this particular case, what we looked at is whether a property was part of an existing shopping center, and if it was, particularly if it was, for example, the parking lot that served the shopping center, or in many cases, it was a parcel that contained part of a larger building in the shopping center, we took those properties out. The idea being that while there could be a signature project on that location, it's more likely that the whole shopping center would redevelop, or a large portion and not a small portion of the shopping center. These numbers on column 3 are more similar to the data that was presented to council in the fall. So what we found is if you did reduce the threshold down to 0.5 acres on interior parcel, it creates a lot of challenges with achieving the signature project goals. One is there's open space requirements that vary based on the type of village, and it'd be very difficult depending on which village you're in, it could be very difficult to achieve those minimum open space requirements. It could also be difficult based on parcel size to achieve the commercial space requirements in addition to the open space requirements. And I should add, even though council is going to be contemplating in the end of November eliminating parking requirements citywide, we do anticipate that development for market reasons and financing reasons will continue to provide parking. So when you layer on parking, commercial space requirements, and open space requirements, from staff's analysis, it's going to be very difficult to achieve all of those things on the smaller properties that are close to or at 0.5 acres. The other thing to be mindful is the effect of shrinking the criteria is in affordable housing. So what we have found is that most of the housing developers, affordable housing developers, for the most part, are looking at properties that are 1.5 acres less. And based on staff analysis of affordable housing projects in recent years, 85% of them are on properties that are less than 1.5 acres. The other thing to be mindful of, because of that, actually, 85% of the sites in our draft housing element in unapproved urban village plans are on sites that are less than 1.5 acres. The advantage of this approach, and it was the original intent when this policy was created by council back in 2015, is that it provides opportunities for affordable housing developers that market rate developers cannot avail themselves of. So what that means is that the affordable developers are not competing potentially against market rate developers for the purchase of the land. There's also the effect that there's not as much of an expectation potentially on the part of property owners selling the property of enhanced value, because it could be purchased, for example, by a developer such as Summerhill or Prometheus or TMG or whoever. So because of that can potentially lower the cost in developing affordable housing, and reducing the parcel size would introduce the opportunity for signature projects, which could be a positive thing on one side, but may impact the viability, or could impact the viability of affordable on these smaller sites. So if council does want, so I just want to say, because of those reasons, we're not recommending changing the threshold at this time. But if council did want to move towards or to consider a lower threshold than 1.5, I think staff would recommend that we reconsider the open space requirements for signature project. We would likely need to lower those open space requirements. I think something that we did think about was, well, if you wanted to go down, say down to 0.5 or less than 1.5 or less than 1.2 or whatever, but allow a smaller project size, that the city could require that the inclusionary housing be provided on site. In other words, the IHO obligations be provided on site and affordable integrated into the project. That could sort of if you're missing, if you're going to reduce opportunities for affordable, impact affordable in other ways by lowering the threshold size, you could maybe make up for it by requiring market rate signature projects to build affordable within their project. I think just one thing to be aware of is we've learned through density bonus that developers can then go ahead and concession away all of the other signature project requirements, which would then not leave you with a signature project. So that's something we wouldn't recommend, but it's something that the council could do or could consider, but we just want to sort of put that disclaimer on it that we'd anticipate it really would impact the ultimate objectives of a signature project. So in conclusion, so just kind of recap, so changing the parcel threshold from 1.5 to 0.05 acres using just the base number of properties would result in 218 more parcels. Development standards would be difficult to achieve. It could detract from affordable housing development, and many small parcels could never achieve the signature project objectives. Changing the parcel threshold from 0.5 to 1.25 acres yields 30 more parcels. And so while there is a benefit of that, we think that the benefit of preserving these additional sites for affordable only outweighs the benefit of getting 30 more parcels. So at this time, staff does not recommend changing the minimum parcel size below 1.5 acres. And just to conclude, next steps, this item will be cross-referenced to council on December 6th. And an information memo on Senate Bill 6 and Assembly Bill 2011 will be released to the council in the winter of 2023. These are two bills that allow for housing on commercially designated land, and we anticipate will have some impacts on signature projects. So we're still analyzing that, and we will present that to council. And that concludes staff presentation, and we'll open up for questions and discussion.
Great, thank you for the presentation. We'll turn to the members of the public first. Does anyone have their hands raised?
There are no comments from the public.
If not, then I will turn to, looks like Paul Soto has raised his hand. Go ahead, Paul. Paul, are you there? Paul, we can't hear you, but I can see that your microphone is live. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn to the committee and then go back to Paul after the committee makes their comments. Does any of the committee members have any questions or wish to make a motion? And if you wish to make a motion, please include cross-referencing to the December 6th council meeting.
Move to accept and refer to December 6th.
Second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Has Paul come back? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, Paul, let's go back to you and then we'll vote. Paul, it appears we have some technology issues,
How about
so
now? How
here we
about now?
go. Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. I'm in 100% full agreement with what the analysis that was just given. And it's interesting that the affordable housing issue that was just recently deferred was deferred because this discussion had to happen. You see, because if we had that discussion before this one, this would be superfluous. This discussion would be superfluous because the affordable housing element strategy for the next 8 years is going to take precedent. So what I would suggest is that it would be very irresponsible for this council to pass anything that would compromise that 1.5 threshold. Because that 1.5 threshold, if you see, it's very clear that that is the size of the affordable housing projects. So now what I'd like to see is all of the 1.5 parcels that are owned by the city or that could be possibly acquired by the city, that those be designated first of all. I mean, you want housing suggestions? This is a housing suggestion. Okay, that those be designated, identified, and the ones that have the possibility of being acquired, they are identified first before anything. Okay, because once you have that data, then you're able to make whatever decisions you need to make. So the fact that this would even be considered is practically irresponsible. I mean, look at the data that is coming out from the joint venture projects. Look at the data that's coming out that this is the most expensive city to live in the country. Okay, and a lot of that has to do with the policies that are passed in these meetings. Okay, and to not accept the responsibility for that, you are circumventing your duty, your sworn oath to protect the citizens of the city. So I'm in full agreement with the recommendation.
Thank you. Turning back to council, let's vote. Or the committee, sorry, not council. Partial
Rob?
council.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Perales,
Yes.
Mahan,
Aye.
Esparza,
Yes.
and Foley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is the City Initiatives Roadmap, the COVID Recovery Task Force Status Report. Rosalind, I think you're starting.
I am. Thank you so much, Chair Foley. Rosalind Huey, Deputy City Manager. I am joined today by my colleagues, Aurelia Bailey and Carlos Velasquez, and we're going to walk you through a brief status report on the COVID-19 task force. So next slide. So just as a quick reminder, the task force is part of the City Initiatives Roadmap. You can see that it's part of the COVID-19 Pandemic Community and Economic Recovery Enterprise Priority. Next slide. So again, just as a reminder, the purpose of the task force, it had a very focused scope, primarily to advise city staff and monitor progress on all of the recovery initiatives. One of the key things that we wanted the task force to help us with, we have 55 members on the task force. They're representatives of community-based organizations who work very closely with many members in our community, particularly those who were hit the hardest by the pandemic. And we thought it was just really important for them to help us connect our residents with the existing services and programs to help them recover. Another big component of their scope was to actually develop a community engagement plan. And you're going to hear from Carlos in detail and from Aurelia about that plan and how it was executed and some of the feedback that we got from our community. And then lastly, this task force was charged with coming up with potential recommended actions that the City Council could consider, and they have done their job very well. Earlier this year, the task force divided themselves into 9 different committees, and just a few weeks ago, the committees actually released 87 different recommendations that they are now finalizing over the next month, and we're looking forward to coming to City Council in December. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Carlos to walk you through the community engagement goals and plans.
Greetings, Chair Foley, to the committee and to the public. My name is Carlos Velasquez, assistant to the city manager and part of the city's recovery task force team. I'll be sharing a brief overview of the community engagement the task force conducted this summer. So briefly, our goals were to connect with those most impacted by the pandemic and to do so via meaningful and equitable community engagement in a way that builds trust among those residents and communities. We wanted to connect with those residents with existing city recovery programs and services, and to also hear from them what is working or what's missing from what the city and our partners currently provide. Employing the promotores model has also been a key strategy to connect with residents, and we will talk more about this work later in this presentation. The community engagement that we conducted this summer was a huge and important part of the task force process, and their input will inform the task force's recommendations. Next slide. So as we shared with this committee in April, the task force developed a community engagement plan to guide how we would connect this summer with the individuals, families, workers, and small businesses in San Jose who have been the most impacted by the pandemic. The slide here shows the 5 main components of our outreach: a community survey, gathering input and data from other similar reports and surveys, a storytelling project to further gather stories from the community, an engagement toolkit to assist task force members with hosting their own events, and a lived experience group. It was important to us and the task force that we gather community voices in an authentic way, so we prioritize cultural sensitivity, disability requirements, language, technology skill, and other accessibility concerns in developing and implementing these components and our activities. The aim was for this engagement process to move towards a recovery grounded in equity, dignity, empathy, and action. And as you can see in this slide, this is the results of our work. We had 771 people complete our community survey, surpassing our goal of 500. 38% of those who took the surveys were taken in another language: Spanish, Vietnamese, or Tagalog. 13% identified as having a disability, and 80% had a household income of less than $85,000, which for a family of 4 would classify as low income. We recruited and worked with 9 lived experience group members who carried out community activities and events that included pop-up tabling at events, virtual and in-person forums, focus groups, and pop-ins to existing meetings. We hosted a very successful community resource fair on August 20th at the Seven Trees Community Center, where that was attended by 500 people, the majority of them coming from our 5 priority zip codes for the city. Together with the successful community resource fair, we hosted 31 activities this summer and were able to connect with and hear from more than 1,500 people, educating them not only about our existing programs, but facilitating genuine community feedback to identify their needs. Next slide. So in addition to the survey demographic data I just mentioned, this is an overview of who we connected with this summer, communities who were largely connected to the task force and our lived experience group. Some of the organizations we partnered with in the community activities included the Filipino Association of Workers and Immigrants, or PAWIS, Latinos United for a New America, or LUNA, the Alum Rock Santa Clara Street Business Association, Parents Helping Parents, the Bill Wilson Center, and many more. Next slide. So there were several issues that emerged in our conversations and outreach, and I'd like to share some of the summaries that we have here. Some of the highlights from our findings. Economic security was a key issue. Nearly half of those who took our community survey indicated rental assistance among the top 3 kinds of support that they'd like the city to provide. Food insecurity was also an issue, with many citing food distributions as indispensable to their families in times of economic need throughout the pandemic. Mental health was another issue. A lack of access to affordable recreation and other services aimed at preserving mental health in the community was a common theme during the engagement process. Childcare. Many shared about their inability to join the workforce due to childcare necessities, with 1 in 2 survey respondents indicating that childcare was the main challenge preventing them from returning to work. Parents of children with disabilities were also impacted by the pandemic through related cuts in services that are still ongoing. Workers and small businesses, whether it is seeking a new job, finding assistance to restart or maintain their small businesses, or coping with the stresses of being a frontline worker, workers and businesses are still struggling. Additionally, community members indicated the need for improved health and safety conditions in the workplace, with 2 in 5 survey respondents indicating that this was among the biggest challenges that they faced during the pandemic. And last, but definitely not least, Outreach and awareness of current resources is another issue. 3 out of 5 survey respondents indicated that their biggest challenge in accessing the city's COVID-19 support resources is that they just didn't know about the services or who to contact. The strength of their network was a big factor, with people highlighting how most of the information they received came almost entirely from their fellow community members, neighbors, and family. This is just a summary of the findings from our community engagement. The full findings from the community engagement report have been shared with the task force, who have been incorporating this input and feedback into the final recommendations that they are developing. A link to the report is also included in our accompanying memo for this report.
Thank you. Thank you, Carlos. Good afternoon, Chair Foley and committee chairs. My name is Aurelia Bailey, and I am also part of the Recovery Task Force staff as an assistant to the city manager. As mentioned, Promotoras is another tool for our community engagement through the Recovery Task Force. So who are our Promotoras? Well, Promotoras are trusted neighbors, leaders of the community who speak the same language and share a common culture. Our Promotoras have actually already been out in the community. They've been engaging, conducting outreach. They've been trained by various city departments with existing recovery resources and have started to share and educate resources to the community. Just some of the resources that they've been educating our residents: the Eviction Help Center from the Housing Department, our Small Business Recovery Grants from our Office of Economic Development, and the resources from the Library of Lending Hotspots to computer devices. Seek information from residents regarding barriers to accessing recovery resources and assist residents in accessing these services. What's preventing our residents from accessing these resources has been a big conversation with our promotoras, as they're also gathering some information. What is working? What are the gaps? What's missing from the current recovery programs and services? So who is currently doing this work? We have provided 3 nonprofit organizations with existing promotoras, totaling 21 promotoras. So they have hired 21 promotoras that's out in the community. We have Communiversity, Community Health Partnership, and the Sissy Poetic Collective. Our promotoras actually have helped us get the word out of our community resource fair that Carlos talked about that took place in August, and the City Careers Expo that was held last month. So what are some next steps for our recovery task force? Well, we came to you last year, right about this time. We let you know that we were convening no more than 1 year, and so our year is actually coming up. So during the last few weeks, our committees, the 9 committees, they've been working on drafting the recommendations, and as Carlos and Rosalind already mentioned, we currently have 87 draft recommendations. On October 26th, which is in a few days, we have our steering committee that is going to refine some of these recommendations. And then our last task force meeting will actually take place November 10th. And hoping from there, we will be discussing some outcome metrics and approve the recommendations and report. The final, of course, is that we are scheduled to bring the final report to council on December 6th. So with that, this concludes our report, and our team is here to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for that presentation, and you've done a lot of hard work, and to be successfully completed in a year is pretty commendable for a task force that's supposed to be around for a year, but they seem to go on and on sometimes without a definite end date. So it's really great to see that you're that close, and that the recommendations will be honed down and submitted to us in December. That's great. I look forward to seeing all of those recommendations. I will turn to members of the public for any comments. Do we have any hands raised?
Yes, Paul Soto.
Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
Yes, Paul Sutton from the Horseshoe. Thank you for that report. That is an excellent report, and it's all testament to the Barrio Network.
Paul, we're losing you.
About that this is what we've done for the entire time of our existence, that the barrios are the ones that we are the ones that gather the information. We know the information. The city is not responding to that, however, because we're not going to this COVID task force that was created is only a representation of the poverty that already existed in our barrios. So what it did is it accelerated the issue of poverty to where the city could no longer deny it and had to confront it. But they want to put this COVID element onto it and just, it's COVID, it's COVID, it's COVID, it's COVID. Nah, chale. These issues have been experienced in these barrios and they're going to continue to perpetuate. So I'm glad that you highlighted that, the fact that we only needed it for a year, but it looks like we're going to continually to need it. Yes, you're going to perpetuate these task force. Why? Because poverty is never addressed. It's never addressed. How has poverty been created? By the policies that have been passed by this council, city council, these committees, subcommittees, and the work that is and the senora have done is commendable. However, it has to be a necessary working part of this team now. This can't be something that is the side and just, okay, well, once we don't have no more funding, we have no more COVID task force. Nah, Charlie, because this is only highlighted poverty that has existed in these areas for generations.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Brett Beekman here. It's nice to hear Paul Soto liking a report. I'm interested in it as well. I mean, I'm thinking that the COVID task force, they do have meetings up on YouTube. I was just thinking of like reviewing them if they do. So, I mean, they've been on my mind. So I'm very interested in their work as well and what they can offer the community process. I think it can be interesting. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks a lot for this report. I wanted to offer that a week or so ago, up in North County, Santa Clara, North County, the sewage reports, the waste management facility reports in North County, we're reporting like 4 times as many COVID cases. At their treatment plant, and to signify that all the students coming back to Stanford were probably the cause of it, and it just signifies to me that we have to be on our toes this fall and winter. That our cases may not be as many in previous years, but there will still be rises, and that mask use. And possibly to consider the future of a new booster shot, I hope can be seriously considered by people as very viable options. And good luck in how to consider those issues. Definitely mask use, if nothing else. I think should be considered as respectful and respectable. So good luck in those efforts. I guess also just to quickly report, Gavin Newsom has made February of 2023 that he's lessening the emergency status of the whole COVID process in the state of California. We should be aware of that and start to note it and make plans accordingly. Thank you.
Michelle.
Sorry, my name is Michelle Kalish. Great presentation on this topic. I would like to address the idea of the promoters, which I think is just an outstanding way of approaching the problem. There's a lot of information that is put out on email and on Nextdoor, and that's great, but a lot of people don't have email and a lot of people don't read Nextdoor because they don't obviously have a computer. Language is a problem, as you know, age, accessibility. So I think having people out on the streets, because that that touch that's involved in talking with people. It's just great. I mean, I've seen a lot of the emails, especially on the food distribution that the county sends out, and it's great. But if you open it up, there's so much more information, but you have to kind of pick and choose what information you want to give to certain people if you're trying to be helpful as a neighbor. I'm wondering if there's any, and I don't know this, so I'm asking the question, is a lot of this posted in like churches and schools? I know COVID, a lot of that stuff was closed down, but churches, schools, community centers, I know my community center does a great job of disseminating information, but I don't know about the others. But again, great job on the promoters. I think that is an excellent idea. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Rosalind, Carlos, for your work and all of our city staff that have participated to make this effort possible and worthwhile. As I had presented it during our priority setting and roadmap process, the idea was to try and take advantage quickly. So within a year of the information and quite frankly, the impact, the pain that we had out in our community, and take that and see how we could be best guided by our community to then determine how we recover, how we are investing in a recovery, and where we're going to focus our efforts. And I think a lot of it we've heard that it's a lot of doubling down on the work that we've done already, investing in things like food insecurity, and I think that's terrific. It shows that we've been, we had been focused in the right areas ourselves, as we knew during the pandemic. And unfortunately, a lot of this need is going to continue after. And so I just want to say thank you to our city staff, and then thank you to all of the volunteer participants of the task force for their input and their work. And I look forward to the final recommendations coming back. And with that, I'll make a motion to accept the update.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I want to thank you for your presentation to Rosalind, Aurelia, and Carlos. Thank you for that information. Truly, this is an important task force. The recovery from COVID doesn't mean that our issues are over and solved, but the 87 points you have will help us on a path forward. So I look forward to seeing those in a little bit over a month. With that, let's vote.
Carrasco.
Aye.
Perales. Oh, thank you. Perales,
Yes.
Mahan,
Sorry.
Aye.
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
and Foley.
Aye.
Thank you.
The next and final item is the electronic billboards on city-owned property status report. And Rosalind, are you kicking this one off too?
Thank you so much, Chair Foley. As staff is coming down, I just wanted to open it up with just a few remarks, and many thanks to Blage Salalech and Nora Chen, who have been working on this item. Just a couple of quick things, because I know that we have been to this committee a couple of times, and it has been challenging making progress on this work item. And obviously, due to many of our staff focus on COVID-19 recovery, certainly Blage and her business development team has been focused on assisting our small businesses throughout the city. And so that has impacted our schedule. So first, just want to acknowledge that it has in fact taken us some time to get to this point, but we're glad to provide an update to the committee this afternoon. Secondly, just wanted to acknowledge, we've gotten public comment over the weekend, some concerns about the environmental review process for this work. And just a quick reminder to the committee and to the public as well, that when City Council actually approved the new policy 6-4 on signage that included 17 sites, city-owned sites, there was a program level environmental analysis conducted for those sites. And we indicated that before any selections would be made on specific sites, that there would be project level environmental analysis conducted. And so certainly staff will be moving forward on that work and getting a final recommendation to council next fall. And then I think just lastly today, just a reminder to the committee that we're just simply providing a status report. So no actions on sites or anything of that nature, just merely a status report on where we're headed. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Block A.
Thanks, Rosalind. Good afternoon, Chair Foley, committee members. Blagis Lalich, Deputy Director for the Office of Economic Development and Cultural Affairs. And so we're going to kick it off here with just a little bit of background. The City Council prioritized electronic digital offsite signage and billboard installations and tasked staff to investigate pathways to implement some digital signage. The goals for that digital signage on city-owned property included enhancing the commercial vibrancy of downtown, removing blighted static billboards, exploring digital technologies to allow real-time emergency notification and messaging to residents, and generating some revenue opportunities for the city. Between 2016 and 2018, staff completed analyses and multiple rounds of engagements with the community, with billboard and signage companies, and tenants in city-owned facilities around the placement of digital signage. In September of 2018, Council approved an update to the City Council Policy 6-4, which was the policy named signs on city-owned land, allowing different types of digital signage. The policy identified 17 city-owned sites and a total of 22 signs. As Rosalind mentioned, a program-level EIR was performed on those 17 sites, and staff was directed by Council to prepare and release 2 requests for proposals. One was called a select sites proposal for building-mounted digital signs on city-owned property, namely in the downtown core, and the second was for alternative sites or freeway-facing freestanding signage. As Rosalind also mentioned, the COVID-19 pandemic very much redirected our efforts and delayed the progress of any of the forward momentum that we had generated back in 2019 and early 2020. But now with the addition of much needed staff resources, we are resuming this work and are looking to complete the work that was originally directed. So with respect to the work plan, as I mentioned, the initial request for proposal solicitation was for select sites, and that was released in August of 2019 with a notice of intended award issued in December of 2019. That RFP solicitation was subsequently reissued due to a technicality that occurred following the notice of intended award issuance. The reissued select sites RFP was reduced to 6 sites. We removed the San Jose Museum of Art and the 2nd Street Garage and issued that RFP in May of 2020. The proposals for the solicitation were received in July of 2020 and have been reviewed by an evaluation panel. However, that notice of intended award has not yet been issued due to the aforementioned staff workload and adjusted work plan priorities. With respect to the alternative sites RFP, the city solicited proposal potential leases to install, operate, and manage new freestanding digital commercial signs in 2 locations that were cleared by a program-level CEQA analysis in 2018. At that time, the council additionally directed staff to allow proposers to propose other sites that might fall within the criteria of Council Policy 6-4, if other sites existed. The alternative sites RFP was issued in July of 2019, and 20 proposals were received. A notice of intended award for 1 site was issued in July of 2020. In October of 2020, that initial notice of intended award was rescinded, and the city decided to re-examine its initial evaluation of the proposed sites. A new notice of intended award for alternative sites was issued in July of 2021 with 3 potential sites identified. With that, I will turn it over to Nora to talk about our proposed next steps.
Thanks, Bloggy.
Our next steps include issuing the notice of intended award for the select sites process in December 2022. Following that, we will conduct a project level environmental analysis for the select sites and alternative sites locations, which is anticipated to begin in the new year. And then finally, we'll finalize the contract terms and bring the recommendations to City Council in fall 2023. And with that, we will end the presentation, and staff is available to take questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Blage and Nora, for your presentation. Do we have any members of the public who wish to comment?
Yes, there are 2 members of the public present. Will Jeff and Jason make your way down to the podium?
Good afternoon. My name's Jason Hemp, District 3 resident, and also representing No Digital Billboards in San Jose, a group of over 800 residents and supporters from all districts. I'm here today to talk about concern about the process, specifically regarding Ms. Huey's electronic billboard status memo. Under next steps, it states the plan of issuing a notice of intended award letter for the select sites downtown prior to conducting a site-specific CEQA analysis, as well as a second award letter, which was just mentioned, has already been issued last year for the alternative sites locations, and that a CEQA analysis has not yet been completed. Although you stated that in the memo that project level CEQA analysis has been done on the 17 sites, it hasn't been performed on specific sites. So our group asserts that if the city staff proceeds as described, the city will be making an unlawful pre-commitment and would constitute violation of the California Environmental Quality Act. In other words, the city staff is prematurely determining which billboard proposals it prefers, despite the possibility of alternative proposals or locations that could prevent less environmental impacts. This is what we're considering as pre-commitment. So beginning the CEQA review too late can mean the city can no longer come to the project with an open mind, and that opportunities to implement feasible alternatives may have been lost. We've consulted with a law firm that is familiar with the process, and they've submitted a letter on our behalf. You may or may not have had a chance to review it, but it was submitted as part of the public record, along with about 30 letters of the public and also in opposition. And I have paper copies here if anyone wants a paper copy. Leslie, we're just collectively.
Thank you.
Oh, time? Thanks.
Was there someone else in person or no? Did you complete a card? Okay. Oh, right. Thank you.
I'm going to be real brief. I'm a D3 resident, been here for about 25 years, and I think that the whole idea of the electronic billboards is probably one of the most least popular and fully opposed measures from D1 through D10, but especially in the downtown corridor. I'm going to concentrate, and I'm going to be brief about this. There's many reasons to be against this, and I hope and pray that the city council ultimately puts a stop to this and doesn't allow any of these. I want you to think of Vision Zero and how poorly we're doing with people, pedestrians, people on scooters, hit and run, people dying in the streets. And this is going to be one more distraction for drivers. It's intended to be distracting to a driver. And that's the last thing we need. And we certainly don't need that in the downtown corridor. And I don't want it on the highways, and I don't want it anywhere. And I know that I speak for many thousands of residents that are firmly against this, and why the city has gone forward with this, it astonishes me. And I urge the council to reject this fully. Thank you.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thank you incredibly for bringing the electronic billboards item to the public meeting process. I hope civic innovation staff, SJ city government, and everyday community are learning together how to develop a more safe, open dialogue to describe the public-private partnerships of most community surveillance and data technology, including electronic billboards. And that no matter how good local civil protection policies and sanctuary city policies can be at the local level, our current practices simply allow initial data to be packaged and then resold to other private data companies and law enforcement agencies at the national level. I feel this is something of how to describe the process. I hope civic innovation wants to continue and to not fear the good practices and explanations they had already started with this issue in the past 6 months. To again remind at this time of in our society, I feel the ACLU in its many beginning tech and data collection guidelines, examples, and legal precedents, they can help both individuals and local government together to better consider their own ideas and what can be open democracy, equity, equality, and public oversight, and what can be more holistic, inclusive ideas and how to define the concepts of innovation, tech innovation, the local procurement process, long-term community sustainability, and how to help better bridge the digital divide issues overall. To again mention the good civil protection attempts and practices with current civil data collection issues of Berkeley and San Diego, I hope we will want to follow these recent good examples here in San Jose, and that technology surveillance, data collection, and civil protection ideas can again simply become easy to understand, accessible, loved, and respected by all parts of a community, and to not be feared in the continual day-to-day work efforts of local governments. Thanks for your time. Good luck on working on this issue of openness for all.
Paul Soto?
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. This issue is getting like tired. I remember when it first started out in the Arts Commission. That's where this topic got brought up. The very first time it was in the Arts Committee. I mean, wow. I mean, we've traveled a far distance. But I'd like to think, I believe that the two council members that had been opposed to this from the very start, which was Councilman Prowl and that no, this is not putting these billboards up. You're
Paul, we lost you.
we want this billboard up. And it's the billboard's task to distract driver's attention, to catch the driver's attention. Now, we're slaughtered on the streets as pedestrians, which I am. I'm a pedestrian. We're being slaughtered on the streets in greater numbers than gunfire or stabbings. And so there's a moral and ethical responsibility that the city has to prevent anything that will take a driver's attention away from the road. Okay, so don't talk vision zero. Don't talk we need to protect our kids, we need to protect our children on the streets. Don't talk that. And then in the very next sentence, remove that cognitive dissonance and start talking about billboards. I mean, come on, man. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's insanity to attend these meetings and see the degree of cognitive dissonance that occurs in these meetings when you're talking about two very opposed truths.
Les Levitt?
Thank you. I'm Les Levitt from the No Billboards Group. I'd like to speak specifically to the goals from the staff report, if you would refer to that slide. There are 4 stated goals. Enhance commercial vibrancies first. This is nonsense driven by the billboard industry. There is no evidence of the economic benefit if digital billboards are placed downtown. The evidence of quite the opposite is Santana Row, where they originally installed digital screens with advertising and then turned them off because soda and cell phone ads killed the quality of the visitor experience. When the city enacted the ban on new billboards years ago, it was done based on the principle that beautifying the city would be good for economic development, and that same idea holds today. Remove blighted billboards, a noble goal, but also nonsense in the context of the situation here. The Phase 1 billboard project does not require any takedowns for billboards downtown. And even if it did, the number of billboards removed would be a small fraction of the total number of billboards in the city, which is probably more than 500. Explore digital technologies. This is nonsense and a stretch to find a community benefit to justify an otherwise terrible idea. Everyone knows we don't need billboards for notification because nearly everyone is carrying a cell phone. Generate revenue. The small amount of revenue that could possibly come from billboards is not worth it. Even with the highest possible projections, the amount of revenue would be insignificant relative to the total city budget and other revenue sources. And do you all know how much it has already cost and continues to cost the city to pursue this project? We question if that expense can ever be made up, especially if you start to factor in litigation costs, which the city is already incurring with the airport billboard project. So please don't rubber stamp this. Use this opportunity to question the fundamental assertions driving.
Matthew Citron.
Hello, thank you very much. My name is Matthew Citron. I'm the Deputy Director for the University of California Observatories and Lick Observatory. And I'd just like to encourage you to not move forward with this proposal at this time. We've had a long history of working well together with the San Jose City Council, and we had given feedback based on a proposal in 2018, and that proposal has grown and changed, and we have not been asked, despite having trying to give feedback at various other venues, such as the San Jose Airport Commission, and we have not been able to get significant collaboration in our efforts. So we think that it's a good idea to look carefully at the San Jose Airport Commission report, and which sort of moved against electronic billboards, but was ignored and misrepresented in its report. So I would just like to encourage you to not move forward with this proposal at this time, and we would be happy to collaborate in the future on different sites and with different billboard configurations. Thank you.
Katja.
Hello, this is Katya Irvin. I'm a resident of District 3. And I think electronic billboards don't increase vibrancy. What increases vibrancy is murals and art and greenery, and people increase vibrancy. People don't want to be bombarded with advertising and bright lights. So the right thing to do would be to reconsider this City Council Policy 6-4. Since this policy was approved in 2018, the people of San Jose have made it clear they don't want these billboards. And aside from public opinion, there is more and more evidence about the harms to animals and humans from artificial light at night. There is increasing advocacy, and policies and ordinances have been adopted to increase darkness at night. San Jose shouldn't be behind the curve in considering such policies and ordinances, and should not be adding to the artificial light problem with these billboards. So thank you for your consideration.
John Miller.
Good afternoon. This is John Miller with No Digital Billboards in San Jose. I want to call your attention again to the requirements to take down blighted conventional billboards in order to justify the erection of blighted digital billboards. In fact, there was a big fuss about this in February at the City Council meeting it was talked about the necessity to take down some of these blighted billboards in neighborhoods that often were not served well. And we certainly agree that's the case. And there was talk then about expanding the takedown ratio from 4 to 1 to 6 to 1. In other words, 6 conventional billboards would come down for every 1 digital put up. But it was not mentioned at that time that the planning department years before had recommended a 10 to 1 takedown ratio. And one would think that proponents of this program that talk about the necessity and desirability of taking down conventional billboards, you would think they would adopt that kind of a takedown ratio. And it's really fascinating when we look at what's coming up in downtown, putting digital billboards on landmark public buildings, but there is no requirement to take down conventional billboards. In fact, you can put up a new conventional billboard under the current regulations downtown. How is this justified? How does it fit with the proponent's argument that taking down conventional blighted billboards is necessary and desirable? It doesn't fit. So I think the proponents of this proposal still have a lot of explaining to do, and they should start explaining this. I want to thank you for your time.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. Turning to the committee, Councilmember Perales, you have your hand raised. Oh, you're here in person. How about that? With the baby.
Hello. We were hanging out in the back, at least for a little bit. So thank you, first off, staff, for the presentation, the time. Thank you, Rosalind, for starting off with just the justification I think that we are aware of. This is something that, as you know, I've been working on for years, and I think that I'm hoping at least I'll be able to see the end of the phase 1, part 1, to be able to make a decision on that. And I believe, Blaga, you said December. What date are we going to make that decision, that RFP award?
We are actually not going to be able to bring it back by the end of this calendar year because we have to do the project level CEQA, or the project level
I'm talking
CEQA.
just the downtown sign intensification. I thought you did mention your presentation, the first part for
the timeline. Oh, I don't know if we can. But the timeline is to do the CEQA work on both the select sites and the alternative sites, and bring it back in fall of 2023.
I'm just talking about the award, actually, for the.
Oh, the notice of intended award
Yes.
would be submitted. Yes, would be
Yes.
released before or in December.
And I believe your
of
presentation.
2023.
Yes, that
Yes,
we will make that decision. Do we even have to make that decision?
We don't.
right?
No,
It's just it'll be awarded,
the notice of intended award will be issued.
issued. Apologize. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, but that'll be done in December.
Yes.
That's what I was hoping to see at least got finalized before the end of my term. I recognize there's still a lot of work to be done, especially after the discussion in February, which I didn't see a lot of that in the report in regards to, and I'm assuming all that conversation still to come. That's all the work to come on some of these things that we actually heard from the public commenters on things like a greater takedown number, or I'm actually blanking on some of the. I didn't vote on it in February for different purposes, but we had a list of things we were looking at.
Trees.
Trees. Thank you, Chair. Tree. So all of that is work that is to be continued at the moment, correct?
So I'm happy to jump in, Rosalind Huey again. So when City Council took action back in February on the 2 airport signs, it did provide direction to city staff to amend policy 6.4 to change the takedown ratio from 4 to 1 to 6 to 1. So that is the one item that we are going to be changing, and that was the only item included in the council action. And we are prepared to get that done prior to bringing any recommendations on RFPs for future billboard sites.
Okay, so maybe I did recall it wrong, and I'll have to watch. Maybe we discussed a number of other things, and we don't. But in the motion, you're saying the only direction was on the takedown. Okay, is it? And not to make the changes now, but is it too late if the council says, hey, you know what? There are other things like trees, right, or other things that we would like to include. Is that going to just delay the time? What would that look like to make some additional requests?
I think if city council wants to give further direction to city staff to make further amendments to the policy, we would need to get that direction from the full council.
And what would be the next opportunity for that to come? I mean, you would want that, I'm assuming, then sooner than later, right?
Well, I think if this committee is interested in making any further changes to 6-4, that has to get agendized for a full council discussion. So I'm looking to city attorney to make sure I'm stating this correctly.
Yes, that's correct. So this committee can recommend referral back to the council. At that point, staff can probably answer what the first council meeting you could be able to get to, and then council can direct it from there.
Okay. I'll hear what maybe the chair has to say, but I recognize that, and again, I for different purposes back in February, I didn't support the motion going forward, but I did support the additional comment on, well, what could we actually get out of an agreement like this, and could it be more than what we had talked about previously? And so I do support that, and if it's just the takedown the takedown ratio that we increased, I do think it'd be worthwhile to incorporate some other elements of it. Otherwise, I appreciate the report coming back, and I'll leave some more comments to our chair. So and I'll make a motion maybe momentarily.
Would it be appropriate? Thank you, council member. I'm very much distracted. Can't help myself. Now, I really just want to pick up the baby, but I'm resisting the urge. Would it be appropriate to make that direction to the council policy 6-4 to then go to council from here? Could we do that today? Make those recommended changes with instructions to go to council? We have to go to council anyway with it, right?
You do have to go to council. What I would recommend is that if you're going to refer it back, you can certainly put a note on what that referral is, but I would refrain from discussion on the item itself, because what's agendized here is simply accepting the status report. So if you want to make any changes from that, you need to go back to council, and you can put a comment on what that would be.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm going to move on. Council member, did you want to continue, or you want me to? I'll go to the two other council members who have their hands raised. Is that okay? All right, council member Mahan.
Thanks, Chair. And I appreciate Councilor Peralez's work on this and his comments. I'd certainly be open myself to seeing this go to council for continued discussion. I just wanted to clarify a few things, and I'll try to run through this list quickly. On the notice of intended award, I just want to clarify process-wise, make sure I understand. If a notice of intended award is issued by staff, does that still then require council approval? And if so, is that just an up or down vote, or is it actually something that staff executes on its end? How does that work?
So Councilmember Mahan Blagas-Lach with OEDCA. So the sequence of events is that the notice of intended award is issued. There's a 10-day protest period. Once that 10-day protest period passes, then in essence, kind of the clock starts in putting together the package that would then be brought forward to council with a staff recommendation for council approval. And so in that package are things like the site-specific CEQA analysis, the lease terms, because the city is the owner of the property in which this electronic signage would be installed, and any other conditions that go along with what was outlined in the request for proposals solicitation. So all of that is packaged up together, and then it's brought forward to council in a staff recommendation for the council to vote on.
Got it. And that's, I assume, an up and down vote, or we could suggest changes to the terms and send it back.
Maybe the city attorney has something to say about that.
Sure. Cameron Day, Senior Deputy City Attorney. I believe at that time it's up to the council. So as long as it's a public discussion on the agendized item, then I think you can entertain motions of that at the time.
Got it. So there would be an opportunity potentially to say, well, we're not quite happy with the lease terms, but here are some changes we'd propose, and we could. Okay, that makes sense. And we're able to do a site-specific CEQA analysis in 10 days or less. Is that what I heard?
No,
Oh.
we're not.
I was surprised. I thought, yeah, that sounded wrong to me, but I misinterpreted what you said then. So say that one more time. Sorry.
I think if you're referring to the question that Councilmember Perales asked, he was asking about whether or not the notice of intended award for the select sites would be issued before the end of this calendar year. And that notice of intended award will be issued before the end of this calendar year. And then in essence, after the 10-day protest period, then the clock starts on doing the site-specific environmental review, the final lease negotiations, and so on and so
I
forth.
see. After the 10-day protest period.
Correct.
Okay, got it. That makes more sense. I misunderstood what you said a moment ago. Okay. And then there was a question that came up during public comment that I also was curious about, which was the sequencing of the site-specific SQL review. Is there a reason that we're sequencing it this way, since we have at least for the select sites, a very finite list? Is it just a cost or efficiency decision here? Why are we doing the SQL review after a notice of intended award?
So there was a program level SQL review that was cleared for all 17 sites and 22 signs that are included in policy 6-4 that was amended and approved by council back in 2018. So there was an overall SQL review that was done of the cumulative effect of the sites being in the policy. And now, but we didn't go out for an RFP on all 17 of those sites. We went out for RFP proposals on very specific of those sites. And so now that we have the specific sites, now we do the site-specific SQL clearance.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I guess it's just a question of, did we get enough from the program level to feel confident that we still have the right list, basically, would be my question. And when was the program level done again? You said 2018?
Yes, 2018.
Yeah, okay.
When the policy came forward for
Yeah.
council consideration.
Yeah, and sorry for the basic questions. That was just before my time, so I just want to make sure I understand it. And then at that time, did we have, I'm curious about ROI here, just because obviously it's taking a lot of staff time and there's kind of, I think, mixed feelings in the community. What was do we have revenue estimates on the value of this for the city?
So we do have kind of proposed revenue that the proposers and that responded to the RFP have proposed to the city. However, that's all part of kind of the next step of this process and bringing forward the actual package to the city council for recommendation.
Okay, so we don't know, or at least we haven't disclosed publicly what we think the revenue might be vis-a-vis the cost to do this on our end.
We have not done that recently, no.
Okay. Is there documentation from 2018 or 2019 that I could go back to where that was done, or have we just not done that yet?
There were a few proposals at committee in 2018 where we had some general estimates of what similar kind of districts, such as the one that was I would say the base for this proposal, which was in Denver, the Denver Theater District. And so we had some numbers that we had presented to committee of what they had generated in revenue. And we have some proposals that have those numbers in them that I could certainly forward to the council office if you're interested in that.
Sure. Yeah, I would love to. Thank you. That'd be great. And then the alternative sites I did not see listed. I think it referenced that there were maybe 20. Is that correct? Or when would we know what that list is?
So currently the notice of intent, the most recent notice of intended award that was issued for the alternative sites contained 3 sites that the city felt were subject to the criteria in policy 6-4 that were.
Oh, that's right. So it was narrowed down from there had been 20 proposals received, but there are just 3 that are still possibilities.
Correct.
I see. Okay. Got it. And then finally, last question, just to try to wrap my head around all this. Given how long this has taken, and obviously we had a global pandemic, but would there be a logic to trying to maybe this is just water under the bridge now, but to try to just move forward 1, 2, or 3 quickly and see how it goes and understand how the revenue generation works and the impact on the community. I mean, it feels like we're going pretty broad with something that we still have a lot of questions about.
I guess I'm not sure. In any case, we'd have to do the CEQA. And so, quite honestly, given that, let's say the signs and the select sites are all downtown, I'm not sure that it would be that much different if you're doing CEQA for, 2 sites or you're doing it for 4 sites, given the proximity, given the fact that all of the signs have to abide by the Council 6-4 policy. So they're of the same size generally, they're of the same illumination, they're on during certain times, off during certain times. But I don't know if that's something that folks more familiar with CEQA. Rosalind, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. Yeah, I think that probably doing 2 or doing 4 or doing 6 is maybe not that big of a difference from a time frame perspective.
Got it. Okay. Well, thanks, Blake. Apologies for some of the remedial questions there, but I did miss a lot of the conversation 3, 4 years ago. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Chair, that's all I had for now.
Thank you. Councilmember Carrasco.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted, first of all, to extend my gratitude to the staff, but also to Councilmember Perales, because I know that he's been working on this for, I don't know how many years at this point, but it's been a while. And I had one basic question, and the notice of award is going to be in December. And, I have a concern, maybe like Councilmember Perales, we won't be here. And I always have a concern about situations getting delayed for one reason or another. Is there any way to up that deadline for the notice of awards, like say November, just to give us some cushion so that Councilmember Perales and I could see this all the way through, at least this portion of it?
So Councilmember Carrasco, this blog is the knowledge. We could certainly issue the notice of intended award sooner. I'm not sure how soon we would just confer on staff, but we could do that. But the thing that will take us a long time that definitely won't get to council before the end of the year will be the site-specific CEQA that will need to be done. So it's very likely that we could issue the notice of intended award before December, maybe, in November, but nothing would come to council for council a yay or nay before the end of the calendar year.
So we'd still have to wait until December.
No, I guess what I'm saying is that we could issue the notice earlier, but nothing will come to council until the CEQA review is done, and the CEQA review will take some months.
Right. And so I know that I won't be here for that, but again, I always get a little nervous when I push things all the way to the end, and December's our end, at least, not your end or everyone else that's going to be here, which is wonderful because you'll keep moving this forward. I just was hoping to be able to at least see that much all the way through. So would that be much of a stretch if we moved it to November?
So, Councilmember Carrasco, this is Rosalind Huey. I just, again, want to point out, staff will work hard, right, to issue that notice of intended award next month or in December, but I just want to make sure that this committee understands that that decision does not come back to the full council for any type of action. Again, we will do our best to get the work done and to issue that award, but it won't be coming back to council this calendar year for any type of action.
Right. Got it. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing. This one is it's been complicated, to say the least, for many different reasons, and I appreciate all of your work. Again, I want to extend my gratitude also to Councilmember Perales, because I know that he's been very involved in pushing this forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, thank you. So I do think it is worthwhile to have a conversation with the full council and maybe in that time to double check both myself and then maybe on staff's end. I'm getting my ear bent on recommendations that people believe were included, like excuse me, tree replacement or focusing on certain impacted communities. So excuse me. So I do think it would be worthwhile to come back. So I'll make a motion to accept the status report and then ask that the policy update for 6-4 return to council before the end of the calendar year.
I'll second that. Can we still consider, putting out the award of it? What is it? Notice of award?
Oh, yeah, the notice of intended award, if as fast as staff can move on that, if you could get that in November. I'm also okay, so long as that's before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Chair Foley, if I could add.
Yes, please.
So just regarding the desire to bring the change to policy 6-4. So currently, staff has direction to change one element of 6-4, that is the takedown ratio. I am quite certain that we are not ready to bring that change to council by the end of this calendar year. We had planned to do that in alignment with bringing the recommendations on the RFPs next year. So I'm looking at some of planning staff in the audience, but I am certain that we would not be able to bring that change to 6-4 by the end of this calendar year. I think if it's the desire for City Council to bring to Council a discussion about other changes to 6-4, I think that could be agendized before the end of the calendar year.
yeah, and in case it didn't come out right, that's what I intended. So yeah, I'm not trying to get the policy changed before. What I'm thinking is that I'm thinking that there either was something missed in the motion, or I'm remembering it incorrectly or whatever it may be. But I do believe there is an interest. I know from me personally, and I believe from my colleagues, some of my colleagues, to have other components included in that update besides just the increased takedown ratio, like the tree replacement, like potentially, a mandate to use San Jose clean energy, like potentially a requirement on the particular blighted neighborhoods or impacted neighborhoods. If that wasn't, and it sounds like from your understanding that was not included in the motion, then that's what I want an opportunity to do, is to before staff goes and does work, to know the full body of work. So that's what it would be for. Yeah. To add more work to your list, that's what.
Councilmember Esparza.
Thank you. I am looking at the motion that was passed previously, and it said include the acceptance of the staff memorandum dated November 15th, 2021. And it included in the motion, I'll skip that whole paragraph about the plan for the 2 billboards, because I think we're good with moving forward. But included in the motion that the council approved was also including the following approved requests and directions to staff: 12 signs, 16 faces to be taken down. The majority of the signs to be taken down are to be from communities that are below the 80% median income level, or communities with crime rates higher than 20% of the norm. And the billboards are not to include personal monitoring. The billboards are to use renewable San Jose clean energy, and the revenue will be used towards reaching the airport's goal of 100% renewable energy. And then it talks about adequate tree canopies, such as in District 5 and District 7, will also include a 3-year maintenance requirement for those trees. And then it talks about the revamp of policy 6-4. And so that was included in the motion, and that is staff's understanding. Correct, Rosalind?
So thank you, Councilmember Esparza. Yes, those items that you referenced
Those first 3 items pertain to the 2 clear channel signs at the airport. So those were specific things that those 2 signs had to include in their projects. Item 4, you're correct, directing staff to change policy 6.4 to change the takedown ratio. And that's what we've been talking about this afternoon. But those first 3 items, those were specifically for the 2 signs at the airport.
Right, and then it's staff's understanding about the trees, and that's coming prioritized in San Jose neighborhoods that don't have adequate tree canopies, especially District 5 and District 7, and includes the maintenance for those trees. Is that correct? I just want to make sure that there's a clear understanding. That was my clear understanding in what passed earlier.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember. Yes, that is correct. That was a requirement for the 2 clear channel signs at the airport. So for those 2 specific sites at the airport, those were the requirements, which
Great.
Clear Channel did agree to.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to be clear because that was my understanding, and I believe that there was a follow-up sent to our offices. There was an saying that was, that they had agreed to our terms and that the tree replacement and maintenance would be moving forward attached to, and as well as the takedowns attached to the 2 billboards. And so I had a question for Councilmember Perales. So what would be coming back to us by the end of the year? That would be a discussion on just 6-4 in general, correct?
Yeah, and I guess so. You're helping to remember things correctly for us. Where I must have misunderstood was that we had voted on sort of 2 separate directions. One was specific to the 2 airport billboards, and then we did not include those recommendations to the 6-4 policy update. And so that's where I had misunderstood. So I believe then we have it ironed out, but I do believe the recommendations that we provided for those 2 billboards at the airport are worthwhile discussions as staff is updating doing the final update of 6-4. So, that's the conversation that I'd like to have. So yes, Councilmember Esparza, it'd be in general a topic of just the further discussion of 6-4, but with those specifics that you listed that we had included for the airport billboards.
Okay, I guess what I just want to make sure is that we had voted to approve the 2 billboards, and attached to that were some conditions that we set as a council. And that as this moves forward, that we remember that those conditions will be met, and we expect those conditions to be met. I'm willing to support the motion as long as, hello, oh, I can see why Chair Foley's getting distracted. I just want to make sure that what comes to us by the end of the year is a general discussion, and it does not take the place of the conditions that we've already set and that have been agreed to. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, no, I'm not making any suggestion that we change the direction that we'd given on those 2 billboards. In fact, what I'm saying is I think we take what we crafted there and we should consider including that as new requirements in the 6-4 update.
Okay, understood, got it. Thank you. That's it for me, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. That's a really good discussion. So this is coming back, not to us, but to council, to have a discussion on council policy 6.6-4 before Councilman Perales and Carrasco term out. Theoretic, we hope. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chair Foley.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then let's vote.
Carrasco?
Aye.
Perales?
Yes.
Mahan?
Aye.
Esparza?
Yes.
And Foley?
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. That concludes our the organized portion of our meeting. I'll now move over to open forum. If anyone has any items they wish to discuss that we have not discussed already, now is your time to do so. You'll have 2 minutes. Do we have anyone with their hands raised?
Yes, Blair Beekman.
Okay.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks for the meeting today. I think you're going to be in for a heck of a fight if you try to put those electronic surveillance and data collection billboards into the downtown area. Good luck how to talk about this issue in the future and what can be open public policies with data collection. That has to be added to the list of important items in the future of this subject. How we do that, good luck. I'm trying to learn how to do that. To go on to regular public comment, it's my hope that you know my feelings about how health and human services and racial equity here, how we're trying to learn that in this country, I think can be of so much help to the Ukraine area at this time, and actually be a really awesome negotiation tool in how to develop peace for the future of the region. I think we have to, you know, as we're talking about the issues of the Ukraine at this time, I hope we can really learn to openly speak of what is the initial concepts of what they're negotiating, that the future of Russia and Ukraine, or the Ukraine area, can be divided into 2 states basically, and that the eastern portion can be under Russian control and they can have more control of the Black Sea area. We don't talk about these things in the media. And my concern is that as those are the stakes in this negotiation process, are we going to be fighting for the next 2 years to simply be at this same negotiation point in 2 years from now? And if that's the case, can we start, I think it's smarter to start a negotiation process now that will allow for Russia to have this Black Sea port area that they only had a sliver in the past. And with the Crimea extension, they've been able to extend that larger. They want to keep that protection. I think we should respect that and work towards peace negotiations in those terms. I hope the US is not just going to simply say we're freedom fighters and then come back to the same place 2 years from now. Thank you.
Paul Soto.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. Thank you, Blair, for the comments with respect to the privacy issues and the data collection that is happening in our city. What we're doing is we're producing an infrastructure for citizens that aren't even citizens of the city yet. That's what we're doing as a city. What we're doing is we're setting the stage for literally a new breed of human being. You have to understand that what we're experiencing now is called euthenics, EUTHENICS, euthenics. Okay, and euthenics is a precursor to eugenics. How it's
We're losing you, Paul.
Hello?
We still have you.
Yes. That's what's happening. All of this is being treated in an infrastructure that even citizens don't see yet. That's what we're basically accommodating human beings going.
Paul, we can't discern what you're saying at all.
You just what I'm saying now? Nothing, no. All right. Sounds right.
Michelle.
Hi, this is Michelle Kalish again. I just wanted to make just some comments that I have on this digital billboard thing. It's been being kicked around for somewhat like 4 years now, and I get it. We've got a pandemic, and I get it. People haven't been in
Michelle, we've already talked about the billboards. This is open forum and your time to talk about something not on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Back to the committee.
With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.